be talking about that. At the back of the story, we read about the exam malpractice. Tonight, we were asking you, who do you think is dropping the ball and why? Who among the education stakeholders, including the students, is the weakest link in ensuring the integrity of the national examination? And we've been asking you to send your views to our toll-free number 22151. Tag us on Twitter or on X using the hashtag NewsHour. I'd like to sample just 5 before we go to our discussion. So, center manager is to be blamed. Teachers are to be blamed. NEC sets the exams, so they must be the ones leaking the examination. And a long post here that I like to read because it makes sense. KCSE leakage is actually through NEC officers. NEC is the custodian of the exam. How then does it get away to the public beforehand? Honorable Matiang'i demonstrated clearly that NEC is the weakest link, hence sacked all the senior NEC officers and killed the cartel. The immediate former minister encouraged cheating, and why we saw a school moving from a mean grade of C to a B+, and the principals were promoted. CS education is the weakest link. The principals, the principals are the weakest link. Once the package is opened, they take photos of the questions, give them to some of the young teachers to answer the questions, then duplicate them to the students. That's also another reason. And finally, the weakest link in the system are the center organizers and the invigilators, and malpractice is ongoing. In the ongoing KCSE is supported by the center managers. All right, some of your comments will be also looking at a few more by the close of the show from X. The hashtag is NewsHour. But let's take a look at a little bit of history before we begin our discussion. And the date is November 13th. The year is 2016. To the date today is exactly 8 years. The headline then was Raila Ruto trade accusations over corruption. Court leader tells supporters to vote out Jubilee. The deputy president then said the opposition chiefs are ineffective. And most remarkable, right there at the front page, there was a strike by the National Union of Nurses, which was led by Seth Panyako, who is now a Deputy Director of Medical Services at the Ministry of Health. Now strikes have been here with us for a long time. And the young Kenyatta Achola prepare for grand wedding. Those were the stories back in history, 13th of November to the date today. All right, gentlemen, thank you for waiting up. And Senator Okiya Mutata, good to see you. I was almost impeached from my set because you are not here. Kenyans really love to hear from you and Onyonka.
I had thrown my phone aside. I had some serious work to read.
Yes.
On shift.
On shift, yes.
Shift and share. So it's a very intricate web.
Okay.
So I was trying to get the threads unwoven so that I could understand
what's going on here. The CEO, Elijah Wachira, was suspended yesterday. We'll mention that. But there are 2 questions that I had asked Senator Onyonka that I'd love to hear your perspective on. One is our big Q tonight with the allegations of exam malpractices. Who do you think, or what do you think is causing this malpractice? Who is the weakest link from where you sit, Senator?
I think the weakest link is just the values that this country has. That fraud pays. We live in a country where fraud is paying.
Yes.
And so why not use fraud in everything? So if fraud pays, then why not use fraud in everything? So I think that fact that fraud pays, I think it's the weakest link we have.
Okay.
And we just have to make fraud not to pay.
By tightening our systems?
Tightening our systems, by rewarding merit and things like those. Rewarding merit and or just promoting some good manners. For this a country that maybe needs a ministry of good manners. Because they behave so badly that we just found out what's going on. So there's an element of that I thought if addressed, that to me would address the question of this desire to get shortcuts and everything, shortcuts. We're almost getting to a point whereby if you go and board a matatu in town, you have to ask the driver, may I have your license? Then maybe you scan it and run it to check against it to see if it is valid.
Yeah.
You cannot
No, it's a text message.
Yeah.
You can just confirm.
You cannot, but you should not get there. You should be able to trust that if he's sitting on the steering wheel,
He knows what he's doing.
The systems have checked, and nobody who's not competent to drive is sitting in the driver's seat. But we are almost getting to a point whereby you can't even know what you're dealing with. When you went to a butchery to buy meat,
You ask, is this cow?
Yeah, you can run through everything, whether it's a cow or a zebra, whether the weights and measures have measured that thing to be half a kilo of water. You go to a petrol station, you don't know whether our fuel is
adulterated,
or even the pump is
or even the pump has been doctored. I mean, that's where we are.
That is the society we live in.
Yeah, so
how worried are you as leaders about this society?
Personally, we are worried because I'm very, very worried because this idea that alternative truth exists is even anti-religion, because religion we believe that there's an absolute truth. So if you think that alternative truths and alternative realities that you can create and get ahead, it'll be funny. There was one time, I want to give you a funny story. I was working with some guy, and we had to cross a road. And this guy took a lot of time crossing that road. So I asked this guy, what is the problem?
What's going on?
He said, he works in a place where they make fake brake pads. And doesn't know that one of the vehicles is those fake brake pads. So he makes sure the road is totally clear before he can cross.
Yes, because he doesn't know the fake brake pads. When
in that car.
Yeah.
And that's what I was asking, Senator. Because if these teachers who are helping these students engage in exam malpractice just to make them pass, because a teacher will get promotion because the school is performing well. One day, in 10, 15 years, he walks or she walks into a hospital, and you're from the triage and you're sitting at the waiting area, you're waiting for the doctor, and come and introduce, I'm Dr. Kemi. You look at me here, and you remember, this is that guy I helped. Yeah. What will you do? Because me, I will run away.
Definitely.
I will run away. That is where we've gotten to.
Yeah, there's an element of that. And I must say that I'm not a lawyer, but I see a lot of it in court. Some fellows, when you find some pleadings from lawyers, did this guy even pass his, could even write composition? But he's a lawyer. He's an advocate of the High Court. I've seen a lot of that there. So you wonder, how did this fellow make it? They can't construct a sentence, but they're lawyers. They've got the certificates, they've got all the...
And they're practicing law.
They're practicing.
Yes, diploma. That's my profession. I should not throw eggs.
So you can imagine the client they are serving, what kind of services the client is
giving.
Getting. Yeah.
Okay.
So we are in a society whereby I think the weakest link is that we have lost our values. The concept of taboo
does
not exist. We must go back to a point where certain things are taboo. Yes. Certain things you can't do.
Yes.
So that we restore the pride.
Okay. Remarkably, you're not here, but that's the same thing Senator Onyonka said. Ken, you will look around, blame teachers, but ultimately it's our culture. So I think you both agree on that fact. So I'd like to ask you about your feelings about the reaction on the resignation of Meg Whitman. Kenyans look to be excited that Meg Whitman has resigned because they've been calling for her to be recalled, actually. Raila Odinga did it sometimes last year. And Kenyans are very excited. Why do you think Kenyans really feel that Meg Whitman should actually have left?
Well, the first time I met Meg Whitman, I have not met her across the table, but the first time I was in the same space with her was when there was this governor's conference in Eldoret. And she came there and she was speaking for the president, and it surprised me that a diplomat who was supposed to be here representing interests of her country was the spokesperson virtually of the pitching for President William Ruto. And I got so disgusted I left the place. And I'm not surprised that she has ended up where she ended up with a lot of egg. We have had American ambassadors who have interfered in our domestics. You had Atwood in the late 60s, early 70s. You had, what was it called? Hemstone. We had Hemstone, who intervened but he was intervening on the side of the people. This one intervened on the side of the government. But the most important, for me, the most beautiful thing is that we had her, because she was able to expose one thing, that America has got interests. And we cannot look up to America as our salvation. America has got interests, and if those interests can be served by somebody who is ready to trample us underfoot, so be good. So, to me, she exposed the true nature of American foreign policy in terms of propping up a neo-colonial state and creating a client state. Because if you look at her agenda, really, her aim was basically to say that we don't function as a republic. And so I think her resignation is good, but at the end of the day, she's just an American. She's not a Kenyan. So why should that affect me? She's just an American. And Americans are competing with us for everything. So why should that concern me? I'm more concerned about what is happening in State House, what is happening in the county hall in Nairobi, what's happening in Parliament, what's happening on our streets, in our matatus. That should be what concerns me more. Well, even the replacement will be an American. They're not appoint a Kenyan to that position. So that's an American problem.
No, but now that we've learned that it affects the way things work in Kenya, and I'm also glad that Kenyans are paying a lot of attention, to what is happening. And increasingly this is happening, and that is actually the value of our discussion this evening, because there's a lot of things that are happening all over the place. More important is interrogating where we are as a nation. Where are we? How would you rate Kenya right now? Are we at a bad place, good place, worse place, better place? Are we getting out of the woods? Are we still there? Not just in terms of the economy, but also in terms of our kind of politics. Now, to begin with this, I'd want a general overview, because you sit where the second arm of the government resides, that is Parliament. And part of your mandate is to ensure that you support the government in what the government does, and that's how we get to achieve some of these things. So I want your general overview. I'll begin with Senator Onyonka. Where are we? If today someone, apart from me, asked you, where are we as a country? What is your view of where Kenya is currently?
Ken Mijungu, the first thing I would like to do is, first of all, appreciate that for the first time I am sitting in this studio with such a great man and a wonderful, wonderful friend of mine who has made me become, I think, stronger and more practical about my politics. Number two, our country is, unfortunately, very, very unfortunately, we are at the crossroads. And we are at this crossroads because we have continued to follow our history, and we have continued to follow our politics. And in the process, very many Kenyans had never noticed. For example, and I'll be very honest with you on this, very many Kenyans have never understood what Umtata was saying 10 years ago. All right. When you begin to see how your government is dysfunctional, it becomes a very personal thing. And that is why, Ken, sometimes when people criticize us or him or me, I don't get upset, because the people who are criticizing you may actually not understand the engagement that you have with this country we call Kenya. So I would like to say that, first of all, we are doing badly. Why? Because our levels of corruption have actually increased more. Leadership is more irresponsible. You are talking about today the issue of exam cheating. We are at a spot where you've just explained how this accident happened in Nyala, where I went to school. And you have people who are today talking from Umia Sugar Company on your clip, and they're saying, it looks like the president doesn't understand what's wrong with Mumias. There are so many things that are not working. But at the same time, fortunately, when I look at the economic fundamentals, because I'm a student of economics, the figures, if they are genuine and sincere, where we have our foreign exchange reserves at about 8.6 billion US dollars.
Almost 10.
Yeah, which is quite impressive for an African country. When you look at our unemployment, of course, they're saying it's about 6%, but you know our employment is at 29%. When you look at our health sector, we are in a mess. Instead of changing National Health Insurance Fund, which was NHIF, all we needed to clean up is the stealing which was taking place from these briefcase hospitals, and the system was working. Kenyans have begun to understand and study the system. Then you bring this monster. Now the monster is in court with Umtata, trying to tell people to understand that this is a real monster. When you look at today, and I was looking, I don't know whether Honorable Umtata, you've looked at it, I think this is something we can engage tomorrow morning. Our debt for SGR is now it has hit 840 billion shillings into debt. That is where we are today. If you don't pay that money, you have no railway. You don't know how that deal was secured. So we don't know whether there's a port of Mombasa which is secured. There is a certain level of anxiety and a certain level of I don't want to call it fear, of uncertainty. Anxiety and uncertainty. People want a country that is consistent, that is going to give you the path to the future, that is going to give you the hope which is realistic. You see, the problem we have today, I can't sit here and say that that's what I see in my country. Do I hope that people will change? I hope so. Do I hope that President William Ruto is actually going to look at our administration and look at the government and look at Kenyans and say, I think these people deserve better and we can give them good service? I don't know whether that's possible. In the Senate where I am and where Honorable Umtata is, we are constantly going through narratives. If you look at what is happening with the county governments, you want to cry tears. I mean, the other day we sit in the same committee with Umtata, the SIPA committee, and we interrogating county governments. And governors have refused, they are not coming.
They've just refused.
They've refused. And
no
you're
accountability.
You're not talking about 200 million. You're not talking about 500 million. You're talking about a governor who he cannot account for 2.6 billion shillings.
And they're not coming before the Senate.
And nothing is happening.
What are you doing? Because the question is then, what is
the law doing? The law asked me to summon, and the chair and our committee to summon the governor. If he doesn't come, and he has been given police under the law, he has been summoned and he has been fined. He doesn't come the first time, doesn't come the third time. Meanwhile, he goes out there and says, insults all the senators and tells all of us how we are fools.
And nothing
is going to be done. And then we summon him again. Do you have a functional country?
This borders impunity.
It borders on banana republicanism. That you have a country where the dysfunctionality Honorable Umtata was talking about, this capability and thinking that the best thing you can do as a Kenyan is to have fraud, is to beat the system, is to steal money from poor people. If you can take all the medicine, so be it. If you can use social media to make everybody think you are a wonderful person who's done wonders.
That's it.
That's it.
I want to go for a general overview to Senator Umtata, but I want to ask you about something because it's in the news and you mentioned it. The system that we're using for SHA and SHIF. And you said NHIF was working.
Yes.
NHIF had a record about 13 million users.
Yes.
When the system was audited, they came down to about 9 million. They got rid of those hospitals, those fake individual profiles that were being used to siphon the money. And then they went back to 9 million, and now they're back to about 14 million with new subscribers in about 2 months. My question is, how else would we have done this audit without coming in with a new system, using an old system that was infiltrated, that was not working? How was that going to happen? Just briefly, then I go to Senator.
Ken Mijungu, what are you saying? Do you need a system that costs 110 billion to run anything? Unless you're organizing to fly an aeroplane to the moon. Do you need a system which you are going to pay a company to do for you transfer of data from one place to another, to identify who you are, to give even GPS technology on where the health facilities are, to know which doctors are even serving you as a client, and to even have a state-of-the-art representation of everybody, knowing in that health sector what your challenges are and what the remedies could be. Do you need to spend 110 billion shillings
for all that? Okay, a good question that I put to the PS Medical Services, and the answer I got was the 104 billion shillings was not just for the system, but every other thing that is related to the system. I guess it's a big.
Let me ask you, even if it was for everything else, including giving medicines for dead people and keeping the mortuaries which are running, 110 billion shillings a year is a hell lot of money.
I agree with you. Senator Okia, an overview. And you just told us you were studying SHA and SHIF before you came here.
Yes, I've been reading that thing.
Yes.
And it's a lot of stuff. Even if you look at my eyes, I look like a zombie.
Because of reading?
Yeah, I've been reading the last 3 weeks.
Okay.
I've been leaving my office at around 3 in the morning. In fact, even when you called me, it doesn't have come. I was in the office.
Because you're just...
I was just in the office. Yes, yeah. I came across. The whole thing is very sad for this country. NHIF, and when President Uhuru was in place, they began this universal health care thing. And now what is SHARE trying to do is to expand this thing so that you can be able maybe to trace medicines, whatever. And this traceability, these technologies for tracing, even these trailers you see running with the goods around, that tracked, is not something that is strange. Some of these softwares are open source software that are available.
Yes.
And the NHIF, from the evidence that is now available before us, from the Ministry of Health, they brought documents. I think they did not read all the documents, but I've been reading them. You'll find that the NHIF was just exactly doing what they are trying to do now with SHARE at a total cost of 1.4 billion.
Yes.
Now, you get an addition of 103 billion added on top, just to achieve what had already been done by international consultants. They designed all these things to just 101.4 billion. So why
1.4 billion is what it used to run on as a system?
It was to be upgraded by that so that it can do what now they want to do with the SHARE. Now, how it turns around that the same thing that Uhuru had initiated and was going to cost us 1.4 billion is going to cost us 103 billion more, it's just mind-boggling. And it's sad for this country. When you look at some of the salaries of these fellows who are coming in, $40,000 per month.
That's about 6 million, 5 point something.
And some of those fellows, the work they do is to keep hard disks.
Yes.
If you look at the work they do.
You see the report.
Are those
from
Kenyans?
The court of affidavits. He has them.
They are not Kenyan. These are foreigners and are being very basic project managers. These are jobs that should not be going outside of this
foreigners.
Country. You see. So this is just a way they are stealing from this country, and it cannot be allowed to continue. So it's very, very sad that we are in this position. If you look at data, if you look at the data health, the digital
data transmission,
it's called the Digital Health Act. If you look at the Digital Health Act, Section 4, Clause 1, says the medical data is a strategic national asset. How do you take a strategic national asset and give it to foreigners and private hands? When are you going to take the Kenyan military and give it to Security to run the Kenyan military? When are you going to do that?
That is what it looks like.
That's what they are doing.
That's what is happening.
Those are the details in the agreements which...
You look at those agreements, you find these other people who are appearing are subcontracting to third, fourth parties.
Okay.
Whom you don't know.
Excuse me, Senator, some of our patients will not be getting clinical evaluations using Kenyan doctors. Those patients, their data and everything will be collected and online. Doctors from India, which is the mother country to this project, will be now prescribing what this patient needs to get.
If you look at they are an advocate, and I've reached a point whereby this thing called specially permitted procurement procedures are a complete fraud, because I've decided to go back and say, how did this section 114A enter again in the Public Finance Management Act? When I was stressing it leads me back to the Finance Act of 2018. That's why they put this amendment to the Public Finance Management Act to amend how you can do they amend the Public Procurement and Disposal Act, not the Public Finance. So why are you amending the Public Procurement Act to a Finance Act?
Yes.
Now the Public Procurement Act governs both county governments and national government. You know the finance bill does not go to the Senate. What is the validity of that amendment? So it was sneaked in by the minister. And let see, the specially permitted whatever, what does it do? It gives the Minister for Finance discretion to decide that we shall use somebody.
Absolutely.
No competitive bidding.
Absolutely.
Nothing. So the Minister of Finance makes a finance bill where he gives himself the powers to overturn the Constitution, to overturn the Public Procurement Act, so that he can get procurement without going through the law.
Who passed this?
It passed through the National Assembly.
Then why are you blaming the minister?
It came through the National Assembly.
Why are you blaming the minister?
It was in the Finance Act.
Yes.
Went through the National Assembly. It went into whatever. And you have seen the fight we have been having that this Finance Act should come to the Senate. We have been fighting that this Finance Act should be restricted to taxation. If you find this Finance Act has become a loophole whereby it just passed. And you see what has been happening with the National Assembly is that they just fight for CDF. Once they have been given a CDF pack, they don't scrutinize anything
Then,
else.
Gentlemen, I hold tonight that this goes directly to Parliament. You can't blame the Minister of Finance.
When Parliament abdicates its role, and I'm not blaming the Minister of Finance, I'm not only the Minister, but because the Minister is the one who generates the Act. He must have put this thing there as a special purpose vehicle to create a loophole to avoid the thresholds, the checks and balances in the Constitution.
Yes.
So that especially permitted procurement procedure is basically what the minister thinks. So the procuring entity, what they do is they call the minister and say, we would like to procure this thing, but we want to do it through specially permitted procurement.
Specially permitted procurements, and I'd like Senator Onyonka to jump in here. I know you want to talk about it. I'm just looking at our clock. This could end up to be the biggest topic. Senator, there are 4 ways of procuring. I want you to tell me also, based just on this, we have spoken, I'm just looking at an article that have been sent by a viewer who has been watching the show since we began. And the concerns, this is Davis Kambale, the concern is about the flagging that Nyakango did on the pending bills. The country is broke. The Senate, not the Senate rather, the counties are yet to get money 4 months in arrears. That is the truth. We cannot basically pay our bills. The government, the national government, has to choose whether to settle our debts. And remember, we are at high risk right now, or default. And because of that, there is no money in this country. Everyone is complaining they're broke. Whether the government is talking about a reduction in inflation to 2.7%, which they're saying is the highest in 17 years. Whether they're talking about our debt, public debt to GDP ratio to 6.7, right? From 8, I think it was hitting 8. They say that as an achievement. Whether they're talking about national reserves, so almost hitting 10 billion shillings, right? There is no money in this country. That is the plain truth, if you had Mumias. Now, how do we ensure, as a member of parliament, that we balance development in this country and recurrent expenditures if we don't go this route? And there are 4 permissive ways which we can procure in this country. How do you ensure that happens?
It can't happen.
So do we stop development? No. Is that what you're saying?
No. What we are doing and what Omtata has been doing, and many of us were not able to see when he started, is that we want most Kenyans to understand that the system that we have as it is actually deliberately designed and rigged for the stealing to continue.
Okay.
The reason why there is no money circulating is that there are a few individuals who have gotten into these arrangements for primitive accumulation of state resources, where the strategy is you must go out there and solicit and negotiate and pull out whatever, because you remember we are supposed to have a system where the winner takes it all. You remember we was asking questions about what is these issues about people talking about contracts, about percentages. Why would that be the case? It is because what you are saying, and I'm really trying to be very brief so that I don't start discussing what the advantage and disadvantage of every procurement system is. Yeah. There is no advantage or disadvantage. The system is deliberately broken by a governor if he wants to break it. It is broken by the presidency if he wants to break it. All right? The PPP programs which have come, we have never said that we don't want us to have a new airport. No. Can't you do it so that we get value for money? Can't you do it above the law so that you have more 3-4 companies which can come and then give us offers which even the public will scrutinize? Can't you hold public hearings according to the Constitution?
So the problem is not the procurement. The problem is how it is done.
The problem is the people.
Which people?
That's the people who are stealing exams for their kids. That system, is so messed up from down that way, it cascades to the top.
Okay.
The things, I mean, Ken, how many times have we said, look at about police recruitment, look at teachers recruitment, look at how we are handling. Unless people sit down and say we must figure out how to fix this system. All those things you're talking about, those are lofty ideas which you are imagining and assuming that Kenya is a free, democratic, within a country that wants to run its things within the law, that believes in the law, that believes in fairness and believes in equity. That when money goes to the county, the governor will be magnanimous enough. They can never be magnanimous enough. Okay. Every governor looks for a way to beat the system.
And take a little bit for him, or all of it.
All of it. The community just keeps 10% or 20%. The rest goes.
90 goes to the
Then they take the money. I'm sure Mtata's talked about it. Then can you see the pictures? We come from Dubai, how we have bought beautiful houses, how we are driving big ships, and how we have bought houses in New York, New Jersey. And
tragedy with this money is not even locally here. This money is stolen, is taken out of the country. Okay, you want to weigh in on that because it's an important question. You are one of the people, in fact, you're now public watchdog to Kenyans. You know, how do you balance that interest? Senator says it's impossible, but I am interested in seeing development. I'm interested in seeing 8-lane highway from Nairobi to Mombasa. I'm interested in seeing an improved version of SDR. How do we balance that interest of development when we don't have money? We don't.
You know, whoever says we don't have money...
But we can't pay bills, okay? We can't pay our own bills.
This government cannot pay its bills because of theft.
Really?
They're stealing money. I want to give you an example of my own county. The other day, my governor came with the audit report to the committee. I had raised a preliminary objection on the basis that the report that was before us was not an audit, was a PR exercise. Because from that very report, it shows that Busia has lost $4 billion shillings out of 8.6 billion. And the figures are there. When you go like something like on pending bills, if you look at their statement of accounts, when you put it, when the way it is on paper, it's reflecting pending bills of 1.9 billion. When you take that data the way I did, put in a spreadsheet, you begin
to find the money.
You find that the pending bills have been overpaid by 44 million.
So they're not pending bills.
They're not pending bills.
What do you mean?
But they're saying
this country owes about $1 trillion in bills.
How do they clear that? They go and declare income.
Thank you.
They don't declare on-source revenue. They don't declare cash carried forward. They don't declare grants. They only declare the money they got from the national government. Then they use that to compute and create a fictitious deficit. Instead of a surplus, they create a fictitious deficit. And this is something the Auditor General does not pick.
No,
that's why I said I wanted Nancy, the Auditor General, to sit in the committee. We interrogate her on the audit report for Busia. And I want to ask her at the end of the day, does she still want to keep her job as the Auditor General, or do we fire her?
Is it intentional? Is it by design or by default that they don't interrogate the figures the way you say?
I don't know, but she's the auditor.
You're throwing it back to her.
My leader, if that was a case of a patient and a doctor, what would you do?
Good question.
So when the Auditor General cannot audit, and I'm giving an example of my county, because when they report, first of all, I tried to get the source documents from the governor. They refused. I tried to go to court. They even unleashed goons on me. They smashed my car with rocks. The case had to be moved to Nairobi. In May, the case was moved to Nairobi for the CJ to empanel a bench. Imagine from May up to today, the CJ has not empaneled a bench. 2 days ago, I think 2 days ago, I was constrained to write to her and say,
what's going on?
What's happening?
What's going on?
There was an order given in Busia by the judge. How can the CJ disobey the order of the judge? He ordered that this file be given 3 judges. Now, adding to that, so I tried to get source documents from the governor, and these people I could not get. They say, wait for the audit report. So the audit report comes. I begin interrogating it, using their own figures, the way they've put there. And I'm realizing that 4 billion cannot be accounted for.
Doesn't exist.
Does not exist.
And the money was either collected on source or was
collected
given as
because when you go and look at the report of the control of budget, that was money that was there.
4 billion.
4 billion from a budget of 8.6 million.
That's half of the budget.
Then when you go to Busia, and then there's 3 billion for salaries that goes per year. So you are left with 1 billion, 1.6 billion to run a county for a year. So
where is this money? You're telling me they are not pending bills?
From their own figures. From their own figures, they are reflecting a pending bills of 1.9 billion.
So what you're saying in a nutshell, if we were prudent in management of our resources, we will continue with development in this
country. So this idea that there's no money in Kenya is wrong.
It's wrong.
Okay. And also, let me add my point to what my leader has said. Boss, sometimes let's just be simplistic, because common sense sometimes really helps us understand. How did our country, which had a budget when Kibaki was president of 1 trillion,
about 1 trillion, yeah.
1 trillion shillings, after Kibaki left, and now we are on year number 12, is it number 12 or number 14? Ken, where did we take 1.2 trillion shillings every year for the next 10 years, whereby we increase that debt from 1 trillion, where we are at 12 trillion right now? Where did that money came from? Because the money is there. So and if you want to know that Kenya has the money, how did we increase our tax revenue from Kibaki's time, which was about 710, to it moved to about 1 trillion again, to whereby actually the revenue that is collected without any kusumbuana sana, you are at 3.3 trillion. Can I ask you something? Where have you seen a project where in our country it costs about 100 billion, which you have seen? Just a project, yani ile
barabara 100B.
7 lane, Mombasa Busia. 100 billion.
Tell me, having said all this, gentlemen, what is the weakest link? Is it us again? Is it this system that is rigged?
I don't think I want to blame anybody. I'm saying, Busia, I want to clean it up.
And that's the starting point. That is the starting point.
That's the starting point. It's like when you are running on this relay race, and you have been given the baton. Make sure that your section of the race is perfectly done. So for me, I want to clean up Busia. I want to know where the 4 billion shillings is. If you go to, for example, I'm going to give you an example, because I had to go and look for the IFMIS. Tea and the snacks in the governor's office was allocated about 3 million shillings.
A month of the whole year?
A year.
A year, okay.
By the former governor, because this governor implemented that budget. Now, when you go to the IFMIS payments, you find that the tea and snacks has been paid 5 times.
Same amount.
All they have been doing is to change the code. If the code had 1, 2, 3, they say 1, 2, 4,
5, 6, yes.
Yeah, they put 5, 6, 7. Yeah. So they have paid that thing 5 times. And how much have they paid? 19.5 million. So
in a year.
Means in a year. So which means tea and snacks in my governor's office is 1.5 million per month.
What?
And it's not making.
Can you imagine how many bags of tea?
No. So when you go and look at the IFMIS vote book, then you see how that money is carried out. Almost all entries in the budget have multiple payments.
And why is this not being interrogated?
And the Auditor General just rubber stamps this thing. So that's what I'm saying. That's why I interjected, and I thank my committee members. I raised a preliminary objection. I said we are not going to interrogate the governor on this audit. We must interrogate the Auditor General first.
Didn't you see this?
Yes, didn't you see this?
Didn't you flag this?
And she's looking for, she said there were 2 million shillings, which she did not have documents. And me, I'm looking for 4 billion shillings in the same audit report. And the Auditor General is saying there were about 2 million, which did not have this. So the Auditor General must come and tell me why she's doing PR for Busia governor.
And another question you will find in those payments, you've really been asking wonderful questions, but it will take us another maybe 3 months for you to really now get where we are. Why would you, if you're a governor, be in a position whereby you void payments to contractors and the people who are supplying you with services and providing service delivery?
And they did.
And you invalidate payments to these people using the IFMI system 960 times.
960.
Shouldn't that tell you there is something
is going on?
Something is amazing.
Why would you void payments? A bill has come. You see, the IFMI system is designed, it was designed, no longer. All right, it was designed. And by the way, remember we were being told it is only this year that the national government has taken possession of the IFMI system because it was being kept by other people who nobody knew. So
just like e-citizen and the rest.
Exactly. So you bring in your payment, the vouchers come, there's a way they do entry through Treasury, Central Bank. The money, once you've done the job, you give in a certificate.
It's a direct thing.
No issues.
Yes, shouldn't have issues.
Why would you stop payments of that?
900,000 times?
Yes.
A single payment?
No.
Multiple payments.
Yeah, so we
probably the money is not available.
No, IFMIS only pays when the money is there.
It's available.
That's
why when you can go to the system.
IFMIS window to open
and then you see there are a few things that need to be done correctly. Like if I go back to this audit report for Busia, the law requires that 3 months after the close of the books, in 30th June, some documents should be sent to the Auditor General. That's the individual officers. When you check the record of the audit, they are not there. The only thing you get is the global picture by the CSC Finance, which instead of coming on 30th of October, came on 30th of November. Auditor General did not flag that, allowing that kind of recklessness. So, at the end of the day, we have that problem. Then you come back, and when you come back to the legislature now, people also don't understand a lot of things. There's been a trend that now that pending bills are a debt and therefore should be charged will be the first charge on the county revenue fund. But my friend, go and look at what's a public debt. It is defined in the Constitution. Article 214 defines the public debt. It does not define a public debt cannot occur from expenditure. A public debt only occurs where there is a loan or a guarantee of a loan. That's what qualifies for public debt, and that's what is charged directly to the consolidated fund. Now they have come to counties and began saying that pending bills are public debts. They are not public debts.
No.
They cannot be charged automatically on the revenue, on the county revenue funds. They are not public debts. But now you see the entire parliament has endorsed that. So people are not reading the Constitution.
The problem is the National Assembly. And
you see, so a public debt is defined in the Constitution as a loan or a guarantee of a loan.
Simple question. How do they get away with this? How have they gotten away with it for so long? One, you know, but you're not going to tell me. You're not just, Onyonka, maybe if you speak freely, you will tell me how they get away with this.
There is a point I want to make, and I think you have made it clear, and my leader Omtata has said it. Ken Mijungu, our job, by the way, most people don't understand what we do. Our job is to flag what is failing in our republic. All right? Our job is to say it the way it is. We feel no joy to get on TV or come to this studio and tell Kenyans how terrible things are. Nobody wants to say that. But some of us have realized we don't have another country to go to. If this damn thing collapses, we have nowhere to go.
No escape route for us.
Some of our colleagues in the National Assembly have started waking up. Today I was in a meeting, I was shocked when some of my colleagues were talking about. People are realizing that this system is designed deliberately to be unfair, not to come up with a structure on how you're going to deal with university funding. That's high school stuff. You don't need somebody with a PhD to give you that funding model. But because people are planning on how to abuse it and steal money from it, they complicate it with
so much.
I mean, everybody knows that. We know the issues, and we are saying, first of all, we'll start with civic education. We are going to tell Kenyans the truth, whether they want to hear it or not. We are going to tell our governors. I mean, the things that my leader is talking about in Busia, I sit in the committee, they are true. They are true. And you find every time you're trying to either oversight a county government or you are trying to go and ask questions and you are seeking for basic data, when you find that guys are planning to get goons to come and fight you, then you understand why.
There is a reason.
Then you find they have compromised the whole system. They have got after all, he's a governor, he has got the county commander and everybody on his side. They'll be given
but I mean, there's a period it ends.
What we are saying,
you stop being the governor.
What we are saying, Ken, we think our system, from what it used to be, has degenerated to become a cartel-based arrangement where people who have the capacity are busy organizing the advantages they get. They want to have the biggest farms in this country. They want their children to go to the best schools if they can. I mean, I can tell you today, somebody was telling me, Honorable Mumtata, 90% of the cabinet members who took over 2 years ago, all their kids are in St. Andrew's Turi. Some of them are going to Jewish schools in London. I've never met an engineer who went to St. Andrew's Turi. I wish those guys knew. St. Andrew's Turi is a holiday where people go and the father doesn't need to make more money. He's a billionaire already. The child doesn't have to go to school.
Okay.
So I want to just add something.
Yes.
How we design our country to be hard. Right now, is it ISPAC? These accountants?
Yes.
They have forced a policy that we shift from cash-based accounting to accrual accounting. Now, because of pending bills. First of all, pending bills are an illegality because you're not supposed to spend if you don't have
what
money.
You don't have. Yeah.
The law is very clear. So they want to do an accrual accounting so that these bills can be carried to the next cycle and whatever. But if you look at the way our constitution is designed, we run a cash basis. Taxes are in cash. An appropriation act lasts for 1 year. It's in cash. Auditor General is given 6 months within which to audit the books and close that year. So when we begin shifting to this accrual accounting, we are going to do more cover-ups. We are going to begin now validating these pending bills as something that is valid. In a private sector, you can spend what you don't have, maybe arrange things, but in government, you are not supposed to spend what you don't have. So, but I've moved in, they've pushed the system. From, I think, next year, we are moving into accrual accounting, and there now is where we're going to see more theft because
it's deliberate.
It's deliberate,
and we move there.
And we have got taxes. We implement an appropriation act every year, and those taxes are in cash. Now, when we shift from the cash-based system of accounting, make sure where has this money gone? Where is this? We close these books here, and we begin carrying things forward. There's now going to be more theft or public funds through that system. So it's well advised, just like whoever advised that pending bills are debts and therefore they should be charged the first charge on whatever.
It was deliberate.
It was deliberate also.
Yet the constitution is very clear
on what's public
what's
debt.
a public debt.
Gentlemen, we are running out of time. I'd like to play the video of the week. I am unable to talk about any politics today. I'm totally unable to. I want to play the video of the week. But here is a question from one of the viewers who I just lost. Okay, I got it. He wants a simple answer from the two of you. Then we can play the video of the week and come and close. I would like to ask the two honorable members of parliament about the fate of unemployed P1 teachers. For one, MPs have nowadays taken replacement letters to please some individuals who they think voted for them. Nowadays, the commission, I bet TSC, is not even advertising the replacement for primary. Why? It's a question that you can also have, because I hear you are the same people dishing letters when you go to your public forum. I hear. It's a general term.
For me, I want to say this, I think, before my brother can respond.
Yes.
Ken Mijungu, I want you to tell that Kenyan this way. Very, very unfortunately, the system that we use in taking out the individuals who have been trained under very difficult circumstances, some of them have graduated and in fact they became P1 teachers. It is still crazy that people who graduated, some of them 21, 24 years ago, as P1 teachers, were never absorbed.
They retire without being absorbed.
Absolutely. Yeah. They retire without getting their pensions. I mean, you know, Honorable Mtata, you have the Camry story where pensioners who have, I mean, the whole system, I don't know whether there's a better way I can put it. The system is rigged. This teacher, nobody will care about him. Why? Because those of us who have advantage, those of us who have the capacity to either get bribery money or pick resources and can buy 150 people and you go and employ your cousins, you can do it. And the people who don't have that advantage can remain wherever. And what we are trying to recommend and suggest to Kenyans is this system can be fairer. A P1 teacher should have been absorbed, given courses for them to train a little bit more, and then they can even graduate to university level. There are courses which are subsidiary and some of them which are going to be helping. They are such a teacher. Yeah. Those who are people who collapse into the cracks. It is the same narrative we have about this shift thing. I have people who are telling me, before, with the National Hospital Insurance Fund, before this SHE and SHA stuff came in, my cancer used to be treated actually. As I'm saying, I met in Webuye. He was telling me he's a cancer patient and his money was stopped. And he has been on chemo. How can somebody make a decision without considering that those are the challenges that Kenyans are facing? I am so happy that they've introduced the matter of getting these new teachers, what are they called? JSS teachers. Yeah. That the teachers who are already in attachment should then automatically be absorbed. That is the way the system should be. Okay. The only thing we want, even when that system may come, we still want it to show that it's fair. Busia should get a certain number of students who are admitted because they have their teachers there. They went to school and they get equity. Kisii should. Mombasa, Kwale should. Kilifi should. If we can equitably share revenue using a formula, even the students who are supposed to graduate, finish university, there's a formula which says Busia should at least, I mean, I can give you a simple one. You have how many counties? 47. The government is employing 45,000 teachers. Yeah. Why are you not able to employ at least even 500 teachers in every sub-county in Kenya?
And not all of them will need the same number of teachers.
And then go to the ward, go to the sub-county and go to the county. Show people that, look, our republic is able to accommodate these people. They were selected fairly and people will accept. But right now, the system is rigged.
Doesn't work. I just had MP for Homa Bay, I think Gogo complained the other day, she has only 15 slots out of the 46,000. So she was wondering, with all the teachers that are qualified,
where are the county slots going?
Yeah, with the 15. Perhaps you want to weigh in this?
Yes, I look at it. First of all, I want to look at it a bit differently.
Yeah.
There's no right to employment. The government has got no obligation to employ anybody.
Even if they train you?
The government only employs you because they want to provide a service. The right that is being violated is the right to education. We have got kids who have got no teachers. That's where the tragedy is.
Okay.
Not that somebody has not been employed, but that the kids don't have teachers. And we have got 20 teachers who can teach them. So for me, that's the tragedy, that the right to a basic education is being violated by the government. There's no right to employment. But the right to meet that right of the students, they must employ teachers. So for me, because it's a right, and it's an important right, it's not even a right under Article 43. When you go under the youth, there's a right to education.
Yeah.
That right there is a right that cannot be played around with, and the kids need the teachers they deserve. The government has an obligation to deploy these teachers. We have the raw material, we are not deploying it. Instead, we are putting on 104 billion shillings in air,
yes,
exporting it out. We are throwing money out of this country. So for me, the government is violating rights of children by not employing these teachers.
Okay.
The average classroom is so huge for the kids to get a quality education.
Yeah.
So for me, when I see an unemployed teacher in Kenya today, I mourn for our children who are lacking that teacher.
Okay.
And so the government has an obligation to employ the JSS teachers, to employ the P1 teachers, so that our kids can get the education.
Gentlemen, takes me back to the issue of availability of funds, which you have ably explained that the government has money, but we can't see it. Let's play the video of the week, then we can come back and give you an opportunity to summarize. This is our video of the week, and it's about politics, but we couldn't run any politics today. Take a look.
We are not walking out of Azimio, for sure. We are not the type to walk out of a challenge. We face it head on. There will be need in order to consolidate opposition in Kenya, we will work with everybody. But if others walk out, of course we can't. Our sister Mother Karua, for example, walked out. She gave notice. I don't think that DAP has given notice, or Wiper, or Jubilee. No. So, Chris, just report that nobody is walking out from this side.
That's our video of the week. We hoped tonight that we could touch on politics. Gentlemen, I'm going to seek a special permission to invite you again on this show. We are running out of time. It's 7 minutes past the top of the hour. My director, Mark, is on my ear, but I'd like to give you an opportunity for your closing comments, because the first thing that I asked tonight was, where are we as Kenya? Are we at a bad place, good place, better place? Are we really moving somewhere? So the question is, based on this discussion, where are we tonight? Let me begin with Okia. Where are we tonight, in summary?
I think there's a lot of hope in this country. People are taking matters of governance seriously. The tribal narrative is disappearing. The regional narrative is disappearing. People are beginning to look at how public affairs are governed. And mainly the younger generations, who may generally refer to as Gen Zs, they're getting interested in that. And I think with that kind of concern and focus, this country, for me, is going to take off and be a very great nation. Mm-hmm. I don't think Kenya is a failed state. Kenya is a very, very promising state with a lot of wealth, a lot of resources. I mean not wealth, a lot of resources that can be converted into wealth if the right leadership is found. So for me, Kenya has a very bright future. In fact, the issues we are discussing in this country are hardly discussed in many other African countries, matters of governance. We had a very, very important revolution when these kids overran parliament and got in there. A very clear statement was sent. And so for me, this country is primed for a bright future. Today in parliament, the issue of disappearing, people being kidnapped and whatever came up. Mm. In my contribution, I was able to say that the buck stops with the police, because since these things began happening, I know many of these kids who have been kidnapped and released. None of them has been called by the police to be debriefed and be asked, who was holding you? Could you imagine why were you being held? Can we do whatever? They just leave it because they know what is happening. Mm. So the state is trying to use non-state actors to intimidate the march for a new Kenya. Okay. But I'm sure it's going to fail because the people are informed. And very soon, I think the old wineskins will be cast away. And the new wine that is the constitution of Kenya will be put in new wineskins, and this country, I am telling you, is going to begin competing. And our GDP per capita is going to rise from $1,900 to something like $30,000 in the next 10 years. I can assure you that. But we must get the leadership question right. Right. Okay. So the country has a bright future.
Bright future. That's what I like to hear.
My feeling generally is that I first want to say that after I came to the Senate, it was a very interesting place, because you have to look at everybody and try and see what they think about. I have been extremely lucky to have worked with this man. Extremely lucky. I thank the people of Busia. The people of Busia have been really magnanimous to donate him to
Kenya.
What I want to tell Kenyans is very simple. People have to decide whether it's in church, whether it's in the car that they're getting a lift or they're being given a matatu ride, or whether you're going to the garden and you're growing some vegetables, or people are working on your farm. You're going to have to decide whether you're going to do the right thing. It's very difficult. I understand where we are. Why? Because the fear I have and the feeling I've got, even when Honorable Mtata is very positive about our country, is that if the leadership we have continues to behave the same, then I have no hope. But the determination I've seen when I saw the young people of our country react and rebel and bring out their views and discuss the quagmire they are in. If you go to the universities, you see the distraught kids where their fees has not been raised, the parents are border riders. Somebody once is expected to raise 200,000 shillings. We take our girl child and we open universities and you don't even give a condition that the university should have hostels. Then you let these kids go and live in the slums and then you expect them to come out and they are people of good character, moral. No. This country can change. Many of us, I've told people, Mtata has never been anti-government. I've never been anti-government. We are actually pro-good government.
That's the difference.
Ken, are you with me?
That's the difference.
We are pro-good government. We don't want this taka-taka nonsense we keep seeing all over the place. I mean, you are abducting kids to kill them, to threaten them so that they fear you govern. No. Call those kids and take them out for a football match, play, have coffee. Ask them, what would you do if you're president? They'll tell you what to do. You don't have to kill them. They'll tell you. Stop this, stop this, stop this. Do this, do this, do this. Mr. President, let's play.
A good place to end tonight. Gentlemen, thank you very much. I'll be seeking leave to invite you again for my show.
I would love to come.
I have been enlightened and I'll invite the two of you.
This is the first time.
Yeah.
This is the first time.
This is the first time you're sitting on your show together.
Yes.
Thank you so much for watching tonight.
Thank you.
On behalf of the whole team, Philip Mondi earlier on sign language. We do this again whenever we have an opportunity. As I always say on this show, we are Kenya and Kenya is our business. Let's be optimistic. Have a good night and God bless.